Hi, I'm Rory from XR today, bringing you the latest in news and conversation from the extended reality space. Today I'm joined by Alex Kane, CEO and creator of Volta. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Cheers, mate. So to start us off, can you introduce Volta, and can you also introduce what the team has been working on for your 3 years and who is adopting the service?
Yeah, absolutely. So Volta is a self-serve mixed reality creation platform. It gives musicians and artists and creators the ability to make 3D experiential content, and then you can also broadcast that content from Volta itself. It's meant to integrate pretty much seamlessly into anyone's like artistic workflow. So whether you're a DJ, singer songwriter, anything in between, this plugs in really easily. We have we essentially it turns any sort of essentially you can build a 3D world to your own making, orders of magnitude easier than doing that in something like Unreal or Unity. It's all natively audio reactive, and it all renders in real time. And so essentially you can kind of think of it as almost like Legos for mixed reality for performance for musicians. And we've actually just introduced the ability to let audiences interact with you via different platforms. So we just did an event actually last week where we streamed it to YouTube. People were able to write different keywords into the chat window, and it actually affected the content that they were watching in real time. So that's essentially what it is, and the people that we're seeing using it are musicians of all shapes and sizes. So everyone from bedroom producers and DJs up to literally Deadmau5. We're doing Deadmau5 visuals for a Deadmau5 show next week using Volta. So it's really anybody can use it, but it's really aimed to democratize mixed reality creation. To democratize mixed reality creation for artistic purposes, and it's also free. That's also kind of what helps democratize it. And so it mitigates not only the complexity of building kind of these next level mixed reality performances, but also, what we've seen as being at least 6-figure, if not 7-figure costs of putting on an event that would be comparable for, some of the biggest names on the planet.
Fantastic. I like what you're talking about when it comes to democratizing these platforms and this technology. Could you perhaps break down how a bedroom producer or perhaps a rapper or any other artist could access and then achieve success with your immersive toolkit?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a number of what we call base worlds, and the way that you can just jump in and literally just start using Volta now is you can open up Volta, choose a base world, and you'll literally start seeing the world itself, this 3D spatial world, react to your microphone. So as you're talking, as you're making sound, different aspects of the world will start to come to life. But once you start diving into it, you can also build a world from scratch. But if you just want to just get started and jump in, click on one of the base worlds and it will start reacting to you. But you can start diving in and literally, every little bit of the world can be controlled by any sort of audio or MIDI source that you have available to you. So if you use, say, Ableton, we have Max for Live devices that you can pull in literally any aspect of the Ableton music production software and have that control any aspect of Volta. We have native support for Tractor, so you can Tractor DJ software. So and we're actually our mapping is built into Tractor, so you could open up Tractor, look for the Volta mapping, open up Volta, look for the Tractor mapping, and then they just start talking to each other. And so the ability to create this sort of next level mixed reality performance is super easy. But then to build success off of that, the way that first things first, you need an engaging performance. But then what we will actually be building into and productizing into Volta by the end of the summer is those audience interaction tools. And those audience interaction tools will also be, you'll have the option to gate those interactions through things like Twitch bits or YouTube Super Chat. So, for example, if I type in the word, if I'm doing a performance and I have some, trippy sphere thing, because we have trippy sphere things in Volta, and I type the word boom into the chat window and I link the word boom to this sort of explosion of that trippy sphere thing, then you can see how audiences can interact. But what we'll be able to let audiences do, or artists do, by the end of the summer is, say, charge $2 per interaction, or $1 per interaction. The artist will be able to choose whatever amount they want to, and then every time someone around the world wants to interact with the actual thing that they're watching, then the artist makes money from that. So not only is this a way to make something more visually compelling and more engaging by virtue of bringing people in and letting them have an effect on the environment itself, it's actually a way to generate revenue for artists and musicians and performers.
Fantastic. I love the Ableton integration and other audio softwares, as well as what you're talking about e-commerce. Could you dissect the e-commerce opportunities available on your MR content creation suite and other ways that new e-commerce or immersive e-commerce opportunities can help bolster modern live events?
Yeah, so like I said, the first one that we're doing, or the first path to revenue for creators, is this audience interaction feature. And we looked at a lot of different revenue models and business strategies, and we decided early on that we wanted to make sure that our financial strategy, or our monetization strategy, was in alignment with our core user base, so artists. So we didn't want to do anything like a subscription model. We didn't want to do a license fee. Essentially, we didn't want to charge artists for anything. If anything, we wanted to do the opposite, which was really only make money when they make money, so that our incentives are aligned. And so the audience interaction stuff is a way to do that. We will earn revenue for Volta by taking a small cut from every interaction. So we only make money if artists make money on that front. But because Volta is both a creation tool and a performance tool, often, what we're seeing is that some people just want to make the worlds, make this 3D audio reactive, dynamic world, but they're not necessarily musicians. And so what we'll be offering not long thereafter is essentially a marketplace for worlds. So people will be able to make mixed reality content, which again is orders and orders and orders of magnitude simpler and easier to do and faster to do than on a traditional game engine, because it's no code. You can literally make some of the content that I'm going to be using for the Deadmau5 show, like I made in half an hour on a plane. It doesn't take an enormous amount of time, but people will start be able to. They can already make their own worlds. They can already make their own content, choose how their audio reactive. But in the not too distant future, probably by the beginning of next year, we'll have the beginnings of a marketplace where people will be able to sell their own worlds that they make. Performers will be able to buy them, literally just plug in and just start playing in all kinds of different mixed reality environments. So those are the two main revenue models that we're going to be testing out, and the two main features that really distinguish between the performer and the creator, all of which sort of happens within our software.
I wanted to pick up on something you said there as well, which is the idea of your community aspect and perhaps the resources and toolkits that you're giving to your community to bolster your future marketplaces and just to assist developers and artists in creating their XR vision. Could you explain a little bit more about your community and what exists in the future for them?
Yeah. So, I mean, in a very tangible sense, we have like, our super. We just rolled Volta out about 9 months ago. We made the beta public about 9 months ago, and since then, uh, we've seen our kind of core super users just make amazing stuff, and often we have to ask that. Well, like we have a Discord channel, and we talk to them pretty frequently, and we have to ask them like they'll make a new video with something that they've made in Volta, and we'll have to ask them like, how did you do this? Like we don't even fully understand how you can kind of get this sort of look or reaction or aesthetic out of Volta in a lot of cases. And so seeing that is really cool. What's cooler than that is when is just seeing the conversation organically start to arise in something like Discord, where they our different sort of like core like users will start talking to each other and like ask each other the same thing. But then if like one of them is having sort of a technical issue, they will start troubleshooting on our behalf, which is amazing that there's people who know the software well enough. It's all new, and this is all new to me to be running this thing. Like this is not what I really ever expected to be doing. And so to see kind of this community of people who care about what we're doing enough to not only learn the software well enough, but to sort of like act as our own sort of like technical support without us asking them or anything like that is wild to me. So that's sort of like in a tangible, like this is actually happening now kind of a way, what our community looks like. In a kind of broader sense, um, you know, our ambition, like I said, is to create this really healthy ecosystem of creators and performers that kind of feed into each other, based around both an interest in having this new sort of creative medium to utilize or to build in, but also be able to make a meaningful income out of it. Our mission, I should probably mention this, that our mission is to democratize mixed reality creation. We are predominantly like being used for music, but that you could hear in the mission statement, like I don't really mention music per se because we really believe that mixed reality is going to become an art form in its own right, independent or at least on par with theater and cinema and gaming and music and fine art, and our aim is for experience itself to become the canvas and for Volta to become that sort of de facto paintbrush. And so being able to make these tools accessible to everybody and align ourselves with both the creation and the creators and the performers, artistically and economically, is important to us. And that's kind of what we hope. We hope to not just build a community, but help to build the foundations for mixed reality as an art form.
That's fantastic. I couldn't agree more with a lot of what you said. And a couple of things I wanted to point out. One, I wanted to ask your opinion on the idea of democratization, of this software and a strong community. I feel like these things come very much hand in hand, are required for either or to succeed. And I think it's very good that this is starting from music and live events, which is so community based. Do you think that has helped you boost your goals of democratization by starting in such a community based art form?
Yeah, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, right? Like on the one hand, um, starting at a point, starting at a place that is very community-based, that you have, a one-to-many relationship of an artist to their audience, and therefore us going to an artist and getting them to use it, getting that sort of level of exposure to a bigger audience, is great. The other side of that, on the other side of that, is I think we're all like globally, socially trying to figure out how to make remote social interaction meaningful and enjoyable, and uh, and us particularly so, like, because so much of our strategy and so much of our interests um, are based around audience interaction, bringing people together. Like our economic model is based around that. What we are really trying to do right now is do a lot of research into what it really is about social group social interaction that people enjoy, right? Like when you think about fandom, you know, what is that, right? Like you don't go to a show to listen to music, to hear music in the best possible quality. If you wanted to do that, just buy a really nice pair of headphones, sit on your couch, and that you're not going to hear it any better than that. You go for different forms of tribalism, for different forms of unity. If you look at like what applause is, right? It's not this behavior in aggregate. It's a feedback loop. Like there's a certain amount of virality, but in real life to that. And so we're trying to, rather than just kind of avatarize real life events or replicate real life events into this place, we're really doing a lot of research right now into what makes those sorts of experiences so valuable to people, and figuring out how we can translate that into mixed reality, into remote kind of events, into globalized audiences. Because if you don't break that down, it's just not going to be, nothing's better than the real thing. So trying to replicate the real thing is a fool's errand. And more often than not, when you go to a lot of like shows and there's new tech where you do a thing with your phone or whatever, like the technology tends to just get in the way. And so we're trying to be really thoughtful on how we do that, on how we bring audiences together, how we bring communities together. And so, kind of going full circle here, it's a hard problem to solve. So it's really good that it's coming from a place of community, coming from a place of people wanting to be together. But when you translate that into this sort of arena, it's really important to do it thoughtfully, and it's going to take a lot of research, and that's what we're trying to do right now.
That's fantastic. I think that's very well said, and I respect your approach to this, not just focusing too much on the technology. And I think it goes into the idea of the metaverse and how will the metaverse affect music and the live events industry. Because, as you say, I'm sure there's more, I'm sure there's room for immersive live events and live event technology in other performance-based entertainment. I can see a spoken word or a poetry gig where everyone's virtually clicking their fingers instead of clapping their hands,
Mm-hmm. Totally. But yeah, so I mean, to that point, like I think there is the kind of quote unquote metaverses we have it today, and then there's the aspirational one that we all feel like we're kind of getting to or leading to. Being realistic about where we are today, and what we all consider to be the conditions of the metaverse, right? Like the metaverse is a one thing, right? Like the idea, it being meta by definition, means that it's an encompassing thing, but filled with interoperable kind of parts. That interoperability is not quite there yet. I don't think anyone's under any illusion that, that, discrete platforms really talk to each other well right now. But that's not really how we kind of think of the metaverse in the present day. at least in terms of what we're trying to do. For us, it will get there at some point. It might get there at some point. I'm sure it'll be something that we don't really fully think of today will be realized in the future, and that's what we'll call it. But today, I think a better way to think about it and its potential for what it can be today is different layers of reality and data overlaid on top of the actual world. And so, you have things like, your distinctions between VR is fairly clear what that is. You're in a siloed experience. You might be interacting with other people in that, but you are quite literally cut off from this world. AR, virtual objects overlaid on top of the real world, whether that's, via looking at it through a phone or over, right now just magically been HoloLens are like the only ones, but we'll see more AR headsets. But we did something that kind of fits into the mixed reality sort of umbrella that doesn't fit cleanly into any of that. And this is just kind of another form of, in my opinion, the contemporary version of the metaverse, which is in October of last year, we did the visuals for Anjuna Deep at the Brooklyn Mirage. And the Brooklyn Mirage is a venue in New York that's fully projection mapped all the way around, 360 projection. Actually, it was. They've actually changed it since then, but at the time it was. And Volta can make a 3D spatial world that renders in real time. And so what we did was, and it can output 360 video in real time. So we were able to wrap the entire venue inside of a Volta world and have the audio running off the soundboard into Volta and have everything kind of changing in real time based on the music. So the 6,000 or 7,000 people in the crowd were physically wrapped inside of a Volta world, no hardware or anything, to see the actual virtual content. What we also did was we ran the first pilot project of our audience interaction tools. So we made a private Twitch stream. We made 3 keywords, Volta, Brooklyn, and Mirage. And when you typed in the word Volta, this ripple shot out around all 6,000 or 7,000 people in the crowd. And when you typed in the word Brooklyn, there was this particle burst on the right side of the venue. And if you typed in the word Mirage, there was this like really trippy tessellation effect on the left side of the venue. And so we only gave the stream and keywords to like 20 or 30 people because we're testing it out. And, it was a big test to give to everybody. So we just wanted to try it out. And so, and it worked. And so essentially what we had, like we're based in London and one of our investors is in London and he stayed up to try it. He was controlling the walls of that experience in Brooklyn from London via Twitch. So this is an instance where you have this virtual world actually wrapped around you, no hardware required to participate in it. And you have this hybridization and this interplay between a global audience and a local audience. And the artist and both of those audiences with the music that they're playing. And I think that's kind of one of my favorite examples. But first of all, that was just one of the coolest things we've done. But it's a great example of like a contemporary version of the metaverse as it kind of leads to this sort of meta reality where it's not just interoperable pieces. It's stacks of realities layered on top of this one.
And that's very awesome. I really like hearing what you're working on and what the team has successfully done, clearly. And to go towards what I believe will be the next festival coming up for you guys, which is Glastonbury. How is XR going to enhance this year's festival? I'd love to know more.
So we are going to be doing the visuals for a few sets at the gas tower at Shangri-La, one of the bigger, areas, one of the bigger stages at Glastonbury. And So traditionally, the gas tower is this sort of, again, another sort of 360 projection mapped venue. This year, it's going to be slightly different. You'll still get sort of a bit of the wraparound kind of vibe to it. And again, because Volta can output 360 video, people can walk into this space and be sort of wrapped inside of a Volta world with real-time rendered effects, with volumetric capture. So we can use LiDAR. We do use LiDAR from the new iPhones and iPads have great LiDAR sensors, and we can do amazing stuff in Volta with that. And I can actually kind of show you what it looks like. So this is our LiDAR sensor, or our LiDAR app, and you can see that it pulls the camera, pulls the depth data, and then this one right here is recognizing what is and is not a person. And so just with this, we can pull all of that data into Volta in real time, and then convert that into whatever we want, really. And so you'll see, some massive artists just turning into particles and Minecrafty people and stuff like that are all just pulsing to the music, and within a virtual world that is kind of stretched in different ways around the audience. So yeah, I mean, it goes far beyond what a VJ loop can do, and will make it a much more I hate using the word immersive because it doesn't really mean much, but it is what it is, right? Like, it'll be an immersive experience. It'll be it'll be next level.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be something, especially in the next 5 years, let alone in a few weeks, going to be something that most people going to that festival or going to next year's and the years on are just completely not used to. It's going to be a complete surprise, I feel, for a lot of people who do not know the technology very well. It's still very early days, so it's going to be a great introduction to what you and many other immersive events and immersive experience platform people are doing. It's going to be a great showcase for that. I wanted to ask about the 3 million you raised. I wanted to know how this fundraiser helped you scale your XR solution and perhaps helps XR for the music industry as a whole.
So raising money is in the way that we're trying to run a business where we want to be able to offer, we want to be able to offer Volta for free, align our incentives with our user base, with our artists. And also, we've drawn kind of lines in the sand around like there's certain things that we just won't do for ethical reasons, right? Like, we're not going to take advertising. We'll never be an advertising based platform. We have a handful of other things like that we are at least kind of looking into, or we won't optimize for addiction, those sorts of things. And because of that, it requires taking in investment, and we were lucky to raise a pretty healthy seed round from some amazing investors, both institutional venture capital funds, but also people like Deadmau5, Richie Houghton, Post Malone's Artist Services Companies was involved in the round. One of the guys from Major Lasers, an investor. So it allowed us to hire. I mean, most of our overhead, by far, the vast majority of our overhead is really hiring just really great people. I got really lucky in that I was able to bring on our CTO, who at the time when I asked him to join as CTO, he already had 10 years of interactive audio mixed reality Unity development experience. Now he's got 12.
Perfect.
Who has that many years of that? And now our lead developer, he, at the time when we brought him on, had about 8 or 9 years of interactive audio mixed reality Unity development experience, and now it's 2 years more than that. So it's just kind of like the money that we raised, the vast majority is going to finding the right the right people who are just unbelievably talented and passionate. They are. The what that allows us to build is to it allows us to build this tool. It allows us to try and further mixed reality as a credible art form. We're beginning to see things, in my opinion, that have actual artistic merit, moving beyond just the novelty of, okay, this is cool, it uses a game engine, but is actually moving towards having real creative artistic merit. That's really what the money does, is it allows us to progress and hire and find the right people. And we have, like, our team is unbelievable. Like I kind of pinch myself a little bit, not only with the fact that they are as talented as they are, but that they're as passionate and just great people. That's really what the money is for.
I'm happy to hear it was such a success on so many levels. It's really exciting to hear. It's really exciting to hear the experience now you have behind you from so many people. And finally, this kind of falls all back into everything you were just saying, but I wanted to learn more about how, in your opinion, XR technology can future-proof the music industry and perhaps, again, the performance-based entertainment industry on a whole. I imagine there's room for archiving events and other use cases that are to come.
Yeah, so I don't even think that XR will future-proof the music industry. I think XR is implicit in it, and if anything, music will become more of a core component to experience and XR. Like if you look at the trajectory of live events, of live musical events, we've been moving, particularly in the last 30 years, but just in general, from a focus on musical virtuosity. That's why you go see a show, you'd go see a symphony, you'd go see people being like amazing at a given instrument, to the spectacle of the event. Right. I'm not saying that there isn't always going to be a place for that, for symphonies and musical virtuosity. There absolutely will. But if you look at like the biggest concerts in the world, compare the London Symphony Orchestra to Coachella or Tomorrow World or something like that, right? Like it's Tomorrowland, I forget which one, but you're 300,000 people for Tomorrowland are gathering in front of one or two people in front of a literal black box, right? For the spectacle, for the experience, I think the logical trajectory of all of this is that the spectacle itself becomes the focus, but to a point where it becomes interactive and experiential. And then music, different forms of visual media, different types of things, all sort of coalesce under that. And that's the thing that people go to. The expectation is, it's reframed from being, and I think we're already starting to see this, to be honest with you. Like if you look at like EDC and Coachella and where they're focusing like their resources on technology, it's already moving to this direction that like it's just a reframing of, is this a concert or is this an experience that you walk into? Like it's a cross between a rave and a James Turrell exhibition, and I think that XR is implicit in that. It's not even future-proofing music. It's more that music becomes a necessary component of mixed reality as an art form, as an experiential art form.
I think that's really well said. I think that's a great perspective on it. I think it sounds very similar to me to the argument of film a certain number of years ago, where that was an amalgamation of music, photography, and other elements held together with editing. Although it feels like with virtual, it just extended reality on a whole, feels like it's the same argument, but it's got film, music, gaming and various other artistic components held together with spatial data. So it's a fantastic perspective to hear from. It's very good. Thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant, mate, brilliant. And that's it from myself. I'd like to thank you for joining me today, Alex. I want to know the best way for our readers to keep up to date with the work being done over at Volta, aside from obviously going to Glastonbury in a few weeks.
I mean, the best thing that people can do is just download it and play with it. It's, like I said, it's free. Just go to volta-xr.com, download it, start using it. Uh, you know, it's a pretty powerful tool, and just it is just genuinely enjoyable to play with, even if you don't like go to try and perform with it or anything like that. We also, obviously, you can follow us on social channels. So at Experience Volta is our handle for Instagram and Twitter, I think TikTok. And yeah, that's about the long and short of it. We have like a newsletter you can sign up to and all that kind of stuff, but that's all on the website.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. For our listeners, get more XR news by following our social pages. I'm Rory Greener from XR Today. Thank you very much for watching.